Greetings, friends in the Lord, and welcome to Saturday of the third week of Lent. We are reading from the prophecy of Isaiah, chapter 6, 1 to 6, Psalm 51, Luke chapter 18, verse 9 to 14, on the theme, the best form of prayer. According to Robert Greene Ingersoll, the hand that helps, the hands that help are better far than lips that pray. The statement, "For I desire mercy and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings," does not in any way reject sacrifice or burnt offerings. These religious requirements become displeasing to God, as you can link sacrifice and holocaust to our gifts, offerings in the church. For those who go by tithe, they are tithe. These obligations or beliefs or patterns of life become displeasing to God only when we consider them as priorities while oppressing the poor and while we keep on living in iniquity, thinking that God overlooks our sins when he perceives the odor of our burnt offering. As this ungodly message is being circulated all over, that the amount of the offerings you give, the amount of tithe you pay, will cause God to arise. That is a lie. That is a lie. There's no amount of money, no amount of offering, no amount of tithe you give to God to make him stand and splash you with blessings. It's a demonic teaching. It has nothing to do with our faith. God, you are giving something that make him stand and give you a powerful blessing, owns everything, as he says in Psalm 54. And also in Psalm 50, he owns everything. The animals in the bush, what are you going to give him? The sea animals. So what you give as offering, apart from when it becomes obligation, whatever you give is an appreciation for what you have received from God. It is not in any way something you give and he will say, because of this, I will act in that way. Of course, in the logic of appreciation, when you appreciate somebody, the person feels enlightened, feels honored, and sees you as grateful. And whenever that is, appreciation is like when somebody has invested in you and you yield more fruit. Like the talent, the parable of the talent, they gave you one sefer, you yielded 2 sephers. That is productivity. You are productive because what you are giving as appreciation came from the master. So he gave you what you started with, the capital you started with. So in the contrast, Jesus hates our secret sins as represented by the lives of the Pharisees, in our public sins as represented by the tax collectors or the publicans. The latter and all like them are sins by the Jews of Jesus' time. And that is why the Pharisees, the tax collectors, publicans were considered as the worst of all sinners by the Jews. Because the tax collectors were Jews who were appointed by the Roman authorities. They collected taxes for Rome and then often charged their own people outrageously by adding outrageous fees for themselves. They were hated by the people and regarded as sinners. If the Roman authority will say 10 sephers, they will add 20. They give the Romans 10 and pocket 10. That was why the load was heavy on the people, and people hated them. For I desire mercy and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offering or holocaust, remains authentic within its context. Mercy does not replace sacrifice, and knowledge of God does not replace burnt offering. It is important to note that the true knowledge of God consists in fulfilling one's religious obligations, which are intertwined with one another. St. James writes, he said, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep one's life unstained from the world. James chapter 1 verse 27. And Paul will re-echo this in his letter to the Romans in chapter 12 verse 2 when he says, be not conformed to this world. In short, James tells us that true religion is a devotion to God demonstrated by love and compassion for fellow men, coupled with unworldliness. A life not conformed to the pattern of the world. And that is why, to end this brief reflection, I want to cite something from Soko Murinaja Losky when he writes, many people are willing to learn techniques that help them live their lives. But the person who seeks to conform their life, the persons who seek to conform their life at its root by reaching beyond technique to the fundamentals to true religion are exceedingly rare. These persons are rare. I find this state of affairs most regrettable. That is why I can't help but urge you to refrain from evaluating your daily life based on what you think you know or based on collected data. May God give us the grace to not turn down sacrifice and holocaust, which in our own way will be one of the things we do to contribute to the growth of the local church through collections for those religions or denominations who fancy tithe, even though it's not a New Testament recommendation. It's not a New Testament recommendation. But whatever works for you in your own church, that is not a hypnotized teaching that will make you empty your pocket in order to feed somebody that is acting the name of the church. Those things do not replace your holy life. They do not replace helping the poor. They do not replace standing for what is authentic. So each of the obligations has its place in our lives as Christians, as believers, as religious men and women. So do not think that there is an amount of money you will hammer, the alert that will ring in the church's fund, and God will spring from where he's sitting and say, my son, you have done well. No, it does not exist. So if you have that teaching, I want you to wake from your slumber, because sooner or later you will crash. The Lord be with you.